All right. So the next question is from Gordon. What's up, Gordon? He says, "Hey guys, thank you very much again for these extremely helpful hump days. It's really appreciated. You're welcome as always, Gordon." He says, "I know you said previously that it is super difficult to rank a local niche. I thought we've answered this multiple times, but let me finish reading it, I guess. Local niche lead gen site organically because of the heavy presence of directory type sites on the first page of the Google search results. But if someone wanted to try rank a local lead gen site organically for a small, less competitive location, I was wondering how much of a site ranking factor having a relative GMB listing was, if at all, and whether you can actually just ignore setting one up and still rank without any increase in the degree of site ranking difficulty." Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, you can as you if you're in a like a suburb area, for example, so out of the broader geographic term that most people would be optimizing for, right? So if you're targeting a geographic modifier or a local modifier type term that is not very competitive at all, then yes, you stand a much better chance of ranking organically. And as we've said before, you can do it without having a GMB. We for a long time, for about a year steady, we pushed the GMBs very hard because we were so easy to get them, and you could get them in each location that you wanted to rank. But for what you're trying to do, I would say no. You're not gonna if you're not gonna try to spam a GMB into the, then yes, you can try. You can just set up a page on a site, for example, or a standalone site for that particular area. I would, and I'm sure Marco would agree, or everyone would agree, that I think you're better off creating a brand and then building authority through that particular brand domain that may cover multiple areas, even organically, even if you're not trying to rank with a GMB, in the map section. Because what happens is over time, your site will grow, will gain authority, right? Will accrue authority, which will make it easier over time to rank in new areas when you want to optimize for new locations, as opposed to setting up like individual sites for each location, which is kind of the GMB strategy. But we're talking about organic ranking now. So you really want to accrue that authority, and it has a cumulative effect from all the other work that you're going to be doing, so that each time, and here's an example, for a lot of the lead gen stuff that I do, I've created multiple subdomain WordPress sites for. So what happens is each new location would get a new subdomain, and then I would install a new WordPress site that was typically usually just a one-page website, well, maybe a couple pages like contact form and things like that. But what would happen is after like the fifth or sixth subdomain, then each time I would go into a new area and I'd add a new subdomain for a new location, it would rank so much quicker than what it took to get the first few ranked, if that makes sense, because it was benefiting from all the authority that accrued across the entire root domain, as well as all of its what I call sibling subdomains, if that makes sense. So you can accomplish that same thing whether you're using subdomains or not. You could be doing it just through a domain and with inner pages for that matter. So, I mean, initially it may be a bit difficult, but if you're starting with a low competition area, yeah, you stand a really good chance, because a lot of the directory style sites are not going to be targeting on a more granular location level. So again, I say it is absolutely possible without a GMB. Guys, input, please.
It's possible, but when you're talking about local and something that triggers a three pack, something that triggers the map, you're going up against proximity, right? And so what you're trying to do is push so much power, so much relevance and authority that you override that proximity factor that's triggering that map. You're trying to get your brand to be so related to the location and to the keyword set, to the niche, that it actually overrides proximity and creates a knowledge panel rather than the three pack. Now, the problem that I run into time and again, if I'm going to push that much power, it's going to take a whole lot of money. It's a whole lot of money that most local people don't have to give you if you're doing clients, and it's a lot more money than I care to spend in a particular niche, in a location, in something that's location specific, unless it's a really high ticket item that I might be after, that I know that if I'm doing dental, for example, I know that cosmetic dentistry, or maybe what do you call it, a face reconstruction surgery, right? And not just getting your face redone or whatever, but reconstruction surgery where they actually have to go in there and work on the bone or whatever, that's a lot of money also. So that's worth my time. You have to weigh how much you can make from it, and what you'll have to spend to be able to make that, and how much time this is all going to require. Overriding that proximity factor is not a joke. It can be done, but you have to override that. You have to somehow overcome that, because what Google is going to push to that person looking at that particular IP is something related to that IP. And how do you overcome that?
Yeah, I just want to add real quick. I love what Marco just said. The fact that when you're approaching this type of whether you're working for a client or you're launching your own project, which you very might well do, the reality is that you need to. It's like any investment, right? There's the risk reward ratio, or the the money and the time that you need to put in a project before it becomes profitable. And sometimes we wanna send a nuke, or we wanna nuke the entire search engine, and we spend a lot of money and we spend a lot of time for a project that might not be profitable. So if you're going after injury attorney, or if you're going after, like, as what Marco was saying, cosmetic dentistry, right? Those are niches that might require you to have a nuke, right? To nuke it down, like to actually go all in, and it might take you maybe a year to see results, right? But then when you're going after some other niches where the cash flow is not there, or maybe the money's not there, that's why I like to work with high ticket potential clients, or high ticket items like pool installation or pond installation or landscaping, that high ticket type stuff that will make sense when it comes to using these type of techniques that Marco was saying, which do take time and money. So makes total sense. I love that.
Anyone else? Right. So Gordon comes up again with, by the way, I recently read an article that said that the reason that the local directory sites take up a large percentage of any particular local Google search result is that 95% of the local businesses in that area have such low SEO signals that Google deems it more appropriate to rank the directories ahead of them. The article said that such situations were actually indicative of it being easier for you to rank a website for that particular niche and location. Can this theory be at all possible and have any merit whatsoever? Well, I'm again, it's going to vary. It's going to depend on the query and the location, because I can tell you for a fact, knowing that because I've battled in local space for a long, long time, that is not the case for a lot of the areas that are more competitive. The reason that the directories rank so well is because they spend a lot of effort to get them to rank, and they're benefiting off their inherent authority from being a large authoritative site, which is what we were talking about in the previous question, which is why we recommend that you're going to build a brand that will start to gain or accrue authority for that very reason. So my point is, like, and I always use this example, but like Fairfax, Virginia, like Plumber Fairfax, for example, that's the one that I've shown multiple times through something Hangouts, and it shows that there's only 2 or 3 brands in the search results for that keyword. The rest are all directory pages. And it's not because those brands aren't spending a shit ton of money on SEO. Trust me, they are. And it's not that there's not other people competing. And that's why all of, Yelp and Home Advisor and Angie's List and all of them are ranking. It's because those directories have put forth a lot of effort to show up there, because they know there's a lot of traffic. So I'm calling that bullshit. Or I should say, I should qualify that with, it depends on the area. If you're talking about a lower competition where there's not a lot of people competing for particular keywords plus your location modifier, the locations that you're targeting, then yeah, that very well could be that the directories are just ranking there because there's not very many people competing. But in the more more competitive areas, which is you can usually just, and I don't usually recommend using the Google AdWords or Ads keyword planner tool for SEO research. However, you can determine where people are competing by looking at the search query numbers, the search volume numbers within the Google Ads keyword planner, because people that are bidding for keywords and paying for AdWords, that you'll see that in the keyword planner, because you'll see what the average cost per click is, and you'll see high numbers and things like that, and also high numbers as far as the cost per click, but also perhaps high numbers in search volume, which means there's demand there, and there are people competing in that space, both for ad space or ad exposure as well as for SEO. So you can use that data to determine which areas are. If you go look in the keyword planner, for example, for plumber plus a location, and it shows very little or no search volume, and which means there's probably nobody bidding on keywords there, then yes, that's an area you could probably rank for fairly easily with organic SEO, because it means it's not very competitive. But if you go look at like plumber Fairfax, for example, Fairfax VA or Virginia or something like that, Fairfax plumber, something like that, any one of the variations thereof, you'll see that it's got high search volume and it's got high cost per click numbers, values, high cost per click values. And that's because it's a very competitive area. So again, those directory sites know that. And that's why they're working on, actively or proactively working on ranking on that first page of Google, because they know they'll get a lot of traffic from it. Any other comments on that, guys? Marco, I know how you love articles about SEO.
Oh, dude, how'd they get that 95% plus number?
Yeah.
Did they go to every local niche and go through every possible keyword in the niche? And how did they measure whether it would be easy or difficult? Did they try to actually rank in these? Because we do go after very difficult competitive niches in competitive areas. Can you type in something that you're not logged in, please? Plumber in DC, or DC plumber. Because we went after that 2 years ago when we were right around this time, as a matter of fact, a little bit before, when we were doing RYS Academy Reloaded, and we're in the 3-pack,
ladies and gentlemen.
We're in the 3-pack. Number 1, plumber in DC. Number 2, and then if you go.
This was 2 years ago?
Yeah, well, nothing has been done in 2 years. And if you look at it,
that clearly doesn't work.
No, our shit doesn't work. Remember that. Drive stacks don't work. But you'll see that the G site is ranking in there, and plumber and DC organically. There's 3 of those that you mentioned, right? The what do you call it? The directory type sites, and then some under it are also
Yelp, Angie's List, and Home Advisor are the 3 number 1 the first 3 organic listings, guys. Do you think it's because nobody's competing for plumber DC for DC plumber keywords, or do you think it's because they're highly authoritative and they're actively trying to rank organically here? Think about it. That's my point. Marco, Marco is talking about how using RYS tactics has been able to get this brand, which to rank as well, both in the maps pack, but just organically down here, 2 sites, the branded domain as well as the Google site. But that's what I'm saying. The top 3 are actually those directory style sites, and it's not because this is not competitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we should rename. We should name RYS Academy the Freedom Tool, or something like that. Because if you think about it, like Yelp, Angie's List, and Home Advisor, they all have their own marketing team. Those are like teams of people, and probably they have 2 or 3 people dedicated to SEO alone.
And big budget.
Yeah, with big fucking budget. So they're spending millions of dollars every year, not only in advertising, but also in SEO. I know this because I've witnessed how people, they will hire like 2 or 3 in-house SEOs working 8 hours every day. And then you go in with a 100 times lower budget, 100 times less the amount of people, right? Because it's usually your own with a VA. And then you sneak in under those 3 behemoths of a website. So that's one thing that RYS Academy should be renamed to the Freedom Tool or whatever,
This cost us, this test was $500.
Yeah.
It was a test. And there we are.
It ain't work.
2 years. No, this doesn't work, by the way. They'll tell you that RYS stacks, drive stacks don't work. But anyway, I just wanted to show that you have to push that kind of power to beat these people. I'd be wary of anyone pushing those kinds of numbers unless they can back them up with the test that they did. And I'd be careful going into a non-competitive area if you're planning to make a whole lot of money, or just try to rank in a whole lot of low competition areas so that you can get a few leads coming in. If these people aren't investing in these low competition areas, it's likely because there's very little money to be made.
That's true.
In there, but you can still make money by outranking them in these less competitive areas, except you do a whole lot of them so that it makes sense to whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's provide leads for the client or sell the leads yourself.
Yep.